In King's Landing, your ancestors raised an immense domed castle for their dragons. The Dragonpit, it's called. It stood atop the Hill of Rhaenys. They're all in ruins now. This is where the royal dragons dwelt in the days of yore, and a cavernous dwelling it was, with iron doors so wide 30 knights could ride through them abreast. Yet even so, it was noted that none of the pit dragons ever reached the size of their ancestors. The maesters say this was because of the walls around them, and the great dome above their heads. Barristan Selmy to Daenerys Targaryen, A Storm of Swords Chapter 8, Daenerys 1. The Dragonpit is a fascinating part of the history of King's Landing because it also speaks to some of the key elements of Targaryen history as well. Namely, with the Dragonpit, you can chart the rise and fall of House Targaryen over their near 300 years of dominance in Westeros before their downfall instigated by the Mad King, Aerys II, and Robert's Rebellion. It very much shows us the might and power of House Targaryen, while also the hubris that led to its slow decline. The Dragonpit was essentially a man-made cave, a cavernous building which was the home of the dragons of House Targaryen after Aegon's conquest. Sitting atop Rhaenys' hill in King's Landing, its huge scale left a dominating presence on the skyline of the city. Just like the Red Keep, you would be hard-pressed to find a place in King's Landing where you could hide from its shadow. After the events of the Dance of the Dragons, this once mighty tribute to Targaryen power has been left abandoned and in ruins. The Dragonpit is effectively a huge domed amphitheatre at the summit of Rhaenys' hill. The main gate consisted of massive doors made of bronze and iron. They were said to be so wide that 30 knights a horse could ride through all at once. It would make the entrance approximately 120 feet, or 36 meters wide. Many lesser entrances were also present, some of them with simple oak and iron doors that surrounded the building itself. The building's walls were so thick and the roof so strong, a huge dome was constructed above the pit, with benches located within the pit itself, which could seat 80,000. With many more thousands able to fit into the centre of the pit. Within the structure, long brick-lined tunnels have been dug deep into the hillside, fashioned like caves, 5 times as large as the dragon layers on Dragonstone. These man-made caves serve as the nest of the dragons, whom call the pit home. While many of the Targaryen dragons did live in the pit, they were mostly those being actively used by the royal family at the time, with many Targaryen dragons still remaining on Dragonstone. Beneath the dome, there were 40 huge undervaults, which had been carved in a great ring. These man-made caves were closed off at both sides by thick iron doors. The inner doors opened onto the sands of the pit itself, and the outer doors opened to the hillside. Some tales of the small folk claim that when the dragons still lived in the pit, nestled beneath the dome, bright lights would often shine through the windows at night. During the storming of the dragon pit during the Targaryen Civil War, known as the Dance of the Dragons, it was sadly destroyed, leaving the huge dome now broken, the building in ruins, the pit's walls blackened with fire. The pit has now been abandoned for a century, and its huge doors have been sealed. No king since has invested the coin needed to repair it or repurpose the pit for a different function. Hardly had the last stone been set on the Red Keep that Maegor commanded the ruins of the Sceptre of Remembrance be cleared from the top of Rhaenys' hill, and with them the bones and ashes of the warriors' sons who had perished there. In their place, he decreed a great stone stable for dragons would be erected, a lair worthy of Balerion, Vhagar, and their Get. Thus commenced the building of the Dragonpit. The writings of Galdane, The World of Ice and Fire, The Targaryen Kings, Maegor 1. Construction on the Dragonpit began in 42 AC, during the early phases of the Faith Militant Uprising. King Maegor the Cruel had just taken the throne, usurping his brother's sons. The first issue for the new king to deal with was the Faith Uprising. After flying to King's Landing on his dragon Balerion the Blackdread, King Maegor used the dragon flames to burn the Sceptre of Remembrance on top of Rhaenys' hill, which was being used by the Faith Militant as a headquarters. 3 years later, shortly after the completion of the Red Keep, Maegor ordered the construction of the Dragonpit, which he called a great stone stable for dragons. Because Maegor had killed all those who had worked on the Red Keep to hide its secrets, many of those hired to construct the building fled. Maegor eventually had to use city prisoners, with supervisors from Myr and Volantis, effectively slave labour, Maegor would not see his pet project finished after he mysteriously died upon the Iron Throne in 48 AC. Construction of the Dragon Pit continued into the reign of Maegor's successor, King Jaehaerys I Targaryen, initially led by Jaehaerys' Hand of the King, Lord Rhaegar Baratheon. In 49 AC, Rhaegar married Queen Regent Alyssa Velaryon in the Dragon Pit, in what was known as the Golden Wedding, witnessed by 40,000 people. Rhaegar wished to complete the Dragon Pit before Jaehaerys came of age, and would start to rule on his own, but found himself lacking the proper funds to continue the construction by the year 50 AC. After Jaehaerys assumed the crown, his newly appointed Master of Coin, Rhaego Draz, secured funds by loaning gold from the Iron Bank of Braavos, Tyrosh and Myr. By 52 AC, King Jaehaerys would often visit the Dragon Pit to keep an eye on the progress of its slow construction. We do know that by this time, a proper workforce had been found to continue the building of the pit, and by all accounts they were well paid with a fair wage for their works by the new king. But eventually, due to all of the taxes imposed by the Master of Coin to pay for the Dragon Pit's completion, and the other improvements needed for King's Landing, Rhaego's popularity plummeted significantly. Construction on the pit was finally completed in 55 AC, and a great tourney was held in celebration. For the first few years after the Dragon Pit was completed, very few dragons called it home. In 55 AC, Balerion the Blackdread went missing with Princess Aeria Targaryen, whom had tried to claim the dragon without permission. When Balerion returned to Westeros a year later, he was badly wounded, with the princess dying an agonizing death soon after. King Jaehaerys had the dragon confined to the Dragon Pit, where he would recover from his wounds. He also created a new order of 77 warriors, the Dragon Keepers, to guard the royal dragons and act as their keepers, to ensure something like the fate of Aeria could never happen again, at least not so easily. 3 younger dragons were soon housed in the Dragon Pit, alongside Balerion, though Jaehaerys and Queen Alysanne kept their own dragons, Vermithor and Silverwing, in the Red Keep, as they were frequently flying between King's Landing and Dragonstone. By 72 AC, the dragon Caraxes had hatched and was considered the finest of the young dragons living at the pit, as the Blackdread by this time had grown old and sluggish. In 57 AC, Princess Alyssa Targaryen claimed the young dragon Meleys as her mount inside the walls of the pit. In 84 AC, Princess Sarah Targaryen attempted to sneak into the Dragon Pit to claim a dragon without her father's permission, but was caught by the Dragon Keepers and returned to the Red Keep. By 93 AC, Prince Viserys Targaryen, the future King Viserys, claimed Balerion the Blackdread from within the pit. However, the Blackdread would soon die of old age. King Jaehaerys I was the first king to have his funeral in the Dragon Pit, when he was cremated there in 103 AC. The Dragon Pit would play a huge role in the Targaryen civil war known as the Dance of the Dragons in 129 AC. At the start of the Dance of the Dragons, King Aegon II Targaryen was crowned within the pit to a rapturous and cheering crowd. However, there of course was some confusion, as many had expected Rhaenyra to be crowned on her father's death. According to Grandmaster Munkin, more than 100,000 small folk were jammed into the building, with the whole of the Dragon Pit floor filled with onlookers. Later in the war, during the fall of King's Landing to Aegon II's rival Rhaenyra Targaryen, the dragon Sheepstealer would land atop the Dragon Pit. During the brief time Rhaenyra ruled King's Landing, the Dragon Pit housed 9 dragons: Caraxes, Vermithor, Silverwing, and Sheepstealer, who would all eventually fly off to battle. The Dragon Pit became the site of executions of traitors, rebels and murderers. Due to the Greens hiding the gold from the treasury before the city fell, Rhaenyra had imposed many harsh taxes and found new ways of generating income. For the price of 3 pennies, the people of King's Landing were allowed to watch criminals be beheaded and their corpses fed to Rhaenyra's dragons. By 130 AC, it had become a custom that at least one dragon rider resided in the Dragon Pit to rise to the defense of the city should it be necessary. As Rhaenyra's grip on power quickly began to unravel, the 5 dragons that remained in the city were killed during the storming of the Dragon Pit, when tens of thousands of crazed and starving small folk, led by a religious zealot known as the Shepherd, stormed the Dragon Pit to kill the dragons. All 4 remaining dragons inside, as well as Rhaenyra's dragon Syrax, were killed in the struggle, as well as thousands of small folk. The dragon pit was reduced to a flaming ruin during the following Moon of Madness that followed Rhaenyra's flight from the city. The shepherd held sway over tens of thousands of people from the ruins of the pit. The heads of the 5 slain dragons were displayed on posts between which the shepherd preached every night. 2 days after Lord Boros Baratheon reclaimed the Red Keep in the name of Aegon II, the shepherd was arrested amidst the ruins of the dragon pit. After Aegon II returned to the city, he commanded the dragon pit be restored and rebuilt. The dragon pit atop the Hill of Rhaenys had been abandoned for a century and a half. He supposed it was as good a place as any to store wildfire, and better than most, but it would have been nice if the late Lord Rossard had told someone the thoughts of Tyrion Lannister. A Clash of Kings Chapter 49, Tyrion 11. The dragon pit would never return to its former glory, not just for the lack of dragons to house there after the dance, but for the sheer amount of gold needed to rebuild it. Gold that was needed badly throughout the Seven Kingdoms in the wake of the bloody civil war. Sir Tyler Lannister, the Hand of the King, in the first years of King Aegon III's reign, did continue restorations of the dragon pit by setting hundreds of stonemasons, carpenters and builders to work, but quickly work stopped once again. The last dragon to call the pit home was Morning, the dragon of Lady Rhaena Targaryen, in 133 AC. During the Great Spring Sickness in 209 AC, so many people died in King's Landing, there was no time to bury the dead. Instead, they were piled up in the dragon pit, and when the corpses were 10 feet deep, the Hand of the King, Lord Brendan Rivers, ordered the pyromancers to burn them. The light of these fires shone through the windows day and night, so bright citizens could see the dark green glow of the wildfire all throughout King's Landing. By the time of the reign of King Aerys II, the Mad King, wildfire was now being stored and made beneath the caves of the pit during the wildfire plot towards the end of Robert's Rebellion. Into the time of the main books, the dragon pit remains a ruin, overlooking King's Landing like a spectre of House Targaryen.